Right. Welcome. We are talking about marketing automation, and my name is Dr. Mary Beth McCabe from National University, and I am joined by my friend and colleague, and I'm going to get this right, Jaime Nacach. So, all right. So we are just delighted that we can talk about this complex topic. Before I get started, I want to talk a little bit about National University and just briefly talk about what we're doing as far as our mobile and social marketing programs go. And, I've been teaching this program for several years. So if you can see this here, it's just basically a little bit about our programs at National University. And this is a little flyer that we have about marketing skills for today's business students. We've got an example of what our class looks like when we're online. So you can see here that students are engaged, they're live, they're definitely interested, and they're working in the industry already from all over the world. We have a program of 5 courses, 2 in mobile, 2 in social, and 1 as creating your own plan. And we're right in the middle of our program as we speak. So we're in the 2nd month out of 5. If students are still interested in getting in the social media program, it starts next month. And so students can still get involved. What they do learn in social media is these platforms, plus a whole lot more. So if you have any questions about that, let me know. This is just an example of some of the content we have. We try to gamify our student experience. Try to let students find ways that they can learn that are fun. So we create things like matching activities that you see right here, and they match up a job description with a special job in the field. So that's just a short little intro to what we're doing at NU, and I want to get back to our guest here, Jaime, and just kind of share with him some of the reasons why I selected him to join us in today's session. So Jaime and I have been friends for a couple of years now. We met through some mutual friends, and we had a few different face-to-face meetings down in Mission Valley and talking about different ways that we could interact and work together. And so I thought this would be a really good way for us to kind of keep that conversation going. And he's been really focused on marketing automation, which to me was just kind of like words when I first started hearing about it. It's like, okay, so it sounds like 2 really complicated words and really doesn't even fit together when I first started hearing about it. And then I've been seeing his blogs, I've been hearing more about Agile CRM and different, buzzwords in the community. So I wanted to make sure that I was really up to speed on this topic. So in the time I've been preparing for this session, I have gotten up to speed on it. So we're going to start slow. I've got a few questions, but we also want to make sure that our audience is welcome to join us with their questions if they want to raise their hand or if they want to just write in the chat box what is their question. This is a time for us to kind of dive in. So a little bit about Jaime is that he's been in marketing and strategy. He's got an MBA. He's from Israel, but he's living in San Diego, right? Am I correct?
Hey, I'm actually from Mexico, but I am Jewish.
Okay.
I did study in Israel. So I
studied in Israel. All right.
I did my MBA in Israel, but my bachelor's degree here in San Diego. So yeah, I'm definitely connected to Israel in a few ways, but I'm born and raised in Mexico City.
Okay, excellent. I was in Mexico City a couple of years ago, studied a lot of Hispanic marketing, and that's really where we were headed. And the irony is that when I was trying to promote this event on Facebook, and I bought some ads about Hispanic marketing, they got turned down. Wow, and I looked into that further, and other people have commented on that. So, marketing automation in play here. So, the topic today of marketing automation is, it's a great thing to have, but sometimes when we have a back end that maybe is not as responsive as we think it should be, it can kind of backfire a little bit. So we're going to get into some of those things later on. But Jaime is the owner of a company called Bluminaria. It's an online marketing firm in San Diego, and he's got international experience. in many areas, including entrepreneurship, business development, marketing, sales. He was recently married. His bride, Michelle, and he are planning a trip in the future. So really want to congratulate Jaime and how you have such a personal approach to technology, which I'm really excited to get into. So I'm going to start with a real general question about, what is the number one issue that you find marketers are facing today? Just to kind of step into this, what is one of the big issues you see?
That's a great question. I mean, I think if I were to say one single thing is the fact that things are changing way too fast. I mean, I have a team of people who were working to help our clients, and we go to conferences, both physical and in person. I mean, physical and also online. And it's just like there's too many technologies that are popping everywhere, and each technology has its own set of tools and strategies for how to use them. So trying to keep up with everything is, I guess, the biggest challenge for marketers today. It is not like the old days, maybe 20, 30 years ago, where I was definitely not in marketing. I was a baby, where things were mostly, more traditional through TV or radio or, printed. It wasn't that complex. Today we have too many platforms to connect with people through, and trying to be on everything or understand where you should be is the biggest challenge, I think.
So let's talk about your passion now. Where did this all come from? What is making you so passionate about marketing? Because I know you have a lot of passion for this, Jaime.
I actually started kind of working in marketing as a, experiment. I wasn't thinking of working in marketing, but at my first job, I just started doing marketing because that's what the job that I got kind of required. And I was like, sure, like I don't know anything about it. I'm just starting college, but this is, it looks interesting because it's about being able to convince people about something. And in this case, convincing them without being necessarily next to them. So I'm like, wow, like this internet thing really is incredible, because you don't have to be with people face to face, and you can do business and, have a business basically. So actually the story I will share with you, because we do have some time, really got me started into going into marketing and in general to the internet, because when I was in high school, we were doing some type of project, and one of my friends, after we completed the project, was like, I'm going to just upload this to my website. And this was back in 2002 or 2001. And I'm like, what is this guy thinking? Like, he's got a website and he can just upload stuff to his own website. Like, this is before Facebook, before Dropbox, before a lot of stuff we use today. So I was like, wow, this is amazing. Like, how do you know how to do this stuff? So he basically told me, like, go to this website, learn HTML, and you can do the same. And I basically spent all summer between junior and senior year just learning HTML, building websites. And I was like, wow, this is pretty crazy. Like, you can have this site appear everywhere. And I just really got into the internet, really loved it, and saw that it was going to be a good industry to be a part of. Obviously, it was already been around for a few years, but not that long. I mean, I think it really started 1994, 1996. It hadn't been even 10 years. So yeah, I was definitely into it. And then I was working really in digital marketing, because I was working in a very small company, and with limited staff, we basically had to make ourselves appear like this big company without necessarily being one, and through good and professional design by having a good website and making it appear like you're this big company, even if you're not. People get to trust you, and when people get to trust you online, you get to be able to create a relationship that can turn into business. So I just really believe that a lot of businesses these days still don't use digital marketing to its fullest potential because they don't know how to use it, or they don't know how to get started. But just in general, it's a great way to communicate what you're offering to people in a mass scale and not necessarily in person. And not only that, but you can do it efficiently, and you can track everything, which I think is one of the best features or benefits of all this digital marketing stuff today.
So you mentioned tracking. When I hear tracking, I think immediately of analytics. And I know that we want to make sure we have a return on our investment.
Exactly.
So you mentioned tracking. So we're going to talk about some of the tools later on, but let's just get to the why first. So why should marketers pay attention to their analytics? What's important about paying attention to that?
I mean, the most important, I think, is definitely, first of all, understanding what your potential clients or clients are doing, how they're interacting with you, to understand, what they're interested in or what they're not interested in. In this case, let's say talking about looking at your obvious, let's say Google Analytics, which is probably one of the most popular things anybody with a free account can do. It definitely lets you, see what's happening because people are actually interacting with your content. In this case, your website, or you can also track things on your mobile app, and it's great. But how does it help? Really, mostly about giving a number to what's your return on investment, right? Because people come up to us and they're like, we're interested in doing marketing, and we want to make sure that our money, it's used properly, and then we can track it. And I'm like, okay, you're coming to the right place because we only do digital marketing. We're not doing print or radio. And not that that's bad, but you cannot naturally track it as easily, right? So we know exactly what our cost per lead are, what our cost per clicks are. We have a lot of data. And because we have that data, we can quickly modify the campaign and target people more specifically. So it's just the specificity of it, return on investment, and really getting down to the exact numbers as opposed to probably approximates. I do not know really anything, and you probably know more about this in terms of, when it comes to tracking things through TV or radio, but it naturally cannot be exact. It's just, there's no way. You cannot know how many people are in the living room watching a TV commercial. You're just guessing.
Yeah. So about automation. So I've interviewed a number of people recently about marketing and talking about practical marketing versus marketing in the classroom. And I interviewed this gentleman up in Vancouver, and he did a research study on automation. So I think you'll find this interesting. Okay. What he found was that marketing professionals are using automation about 2 to 3 times more often than corporate marketing executives. And what he found was this penetration was a lot lower because he thought it was these large corporations were less innovative. He said that they were slower to adapt. And he even gave an example of a real estate broker who was willing to spend and use tools like marketing automation tools, so they were more agile. But then he also talked about a large corporate insurance company, and they were not ready to go with some of these tools. He said that the large leaders in the industry, they were not going to innovate. So can you provide maybe some reasons why a firm would or would not want to get into automation?
I have a perfect example because I've been speaking to a potential client that, he's one of the people, let's say, down the chain of command. He's a sales agent and he works for this big company. Actually, his company is a subsidiary of a bigger company. And, big companies have lots of rules and lots of, levels of how people can get access to things. Yeah. So, this guy is like, he's a sales guy and he really would like to use a CRM system that's actually useful, because I think they were using maybe Salesforce, or they were definitely using something. But he's like, I can't actually go there and create a campaign. I cannot even track my own leads because we're using the general headquarters of the company's website. We don't have our own, let's say, San Diego-based website where we can put pixels to track people based on the ads. So he's like, I love this stuff, and we had a few conversations, but it's like, I really can't do anything about it because these type of changes have to be done throughout the whole organization. And that basically takes time, probably more than money. Money, for sure, it's probably a factor, but I think time and figuring out what needs to be the best solution for a much bigger company just takes longer to get to be decided. So that's one approach that it didn't work, because basically, he's this one sales guy that has a boss, and that boss has another boss, and then who knows how many people are above them, and this change has to come from the top. And the guy at the top has no idea what the guy at the bottom is actually needing. So that's the biggest problem, right? I think communications. And yes, big companies have a big disadvantage in this because of their corporate structure, right? I don't know what they're doing to let the small people talk to the big people so they actually get stuff implemented. But then in another example, maybe not such a huge company, it's a friend that's selling some type of, it's not really a medical device, but it's for like people that can measure their fat inside their body. So it's a tool that helps people figure out how much body fat they have without actually doing much. They just connect something to their body, and within like a minute, they get information about their body. And so he's also, in this case, he's a sales rep for one specific region. So he's one of the main sales guys, maybe out of, I think he told me there's like maybe 15 or 25 different sales agents. So maybe not huge. And so he's like, Jaime, I need to make more sales. How can you help me? You keep talking about this marketing automation stuff. What can I do to, make it work? In this case, it's still a company that's big enough that has a lot of content, and content is a big important part for the actual content that you send through these emails if you're doing marketing campaigns. So in this case, for several reasons, I told them to use what's called Active Campaign instead of Agile CRM. It's just another tool. They brand themselves as a CRM with marketing automation, and it's true, but in my opinion, their CRM is not that good. So, but their marketing automation component is great. I think of it like MailChimp, which is only email marketing, but like on steroids. It's really great email marketing tool, and it's very affordable. So basically help them set up everything. And so he on his own, without even asking for permission, he was able to gather a lot of the content that he was already sharing in personal emails. He created a lot of templates, and he uploaded all the templates to the system. Then initially he started just using the CRM to manually send emails one at a time, but using templates instead of having to type or copy paste stuff. And then eventually he created an email drip campaign where, you know, he created, I think, a series of like 7 emails that he would send to different types of lists. I think he created like 3 or 4 lists. Then of course his sales went up. He was doing great. He ended up having, you know, a conversation with the main sales, I guess, manager at the company in the East Coast, which is where they're headquartered, even though he works here in California. And then he got to present his entire marketing automation sales concept to his entire company, and then got hired on a special project to try to basically implement this for all the sales agents. In this case, you know, I told him, listen, this is great, but you know, you did a lot of work. They're not paying you for this extra work. You're clearly the innovative person here, which is this small, let's say, sales guy. You should definitely, you know, try to work out a deal because you created the system, and you could, even if you're working for the company, you could sort of sell it to them because you can see that they can see that you're getting good results. So if they implement it with the other 25 salespeople, everyone's going to win. So that's another example where the company wasn't too big that they couldn't do something, and they let people do their own thing.
Excellent. Excellent example. So let's go to a big organization and let's see what Warren Buffett said when he was asked. He was asked, will technology replace human intelligence? And his answer was, technology will not get rid of the human element of fear and greed. He said, you cannot program a computer to produce a durable competitive advantage, nor create passion for employees. So I want to ask you, how would you answer that question?
I definitely been hearing a lot of the topics, and I'm also in general interested about artificial intelligence, and I read articles about it, and of course, you know, see movies. And because marketing has a lot of stuff that can totally be automated, you know, of course, I'm like, wow, I'm scared maybe, you know, if something were to replace us. But in fact, I can tell you that I'm actually pretty confident that what I do as a marketer is never going to go away, which is my creativity to think about strategically what campaigns we need to set up, what types of creatives we can come up with. The creative part of the marketing will never go away. So a lot of stuff can be automated, but what makes something be efficient or actually be successful is going to come from, you know, creativity, which is human, and it'll never go away. And that's one component of it. But I just went 2 months ago to the Traffic and Conversion Summit, which was a local digital marketing conference put up by digitalmarketer.com, and it's more like high-level marketing. So usually most people who go there are either marketers or people who are working as marketing people in other types of companies. And one of the main things that they highlighted was the fact that, you know, companies who are going to be successful in the future are going to be companies who can connect H to H, human to human, not B2C or B2B, because in the end, it's humans talking to humans. So definitely there will be a mix of a lot of technology as part of our day-to-day activities, but the successful companies are going to be the ones that are going to still be able to connect, you know, people to people. And I already see it like happening because, for example, some company approached me, they just called me over the phone. They're like, listen, we want to sell you X. Okay, sure. I told them, send me an email. All he did was put me into his email automation tool. So he sent the first email, and, you know, I replied immediately, listen, I don't think this is good for me. Thank you so much, but, you know, no need to follow up with me. And of course, 3 days later, I get another email, which looks personalized, but it's no longer relevant because it was just the next email. And I already said, I'm not interested. The guy who's probably just, you know, hired to do a bunch of calls, he did not get back to his CRM system and deleted me from his list. And then it's obvious that this is not, you know, human to human. He actually did at least later said, listen, you might get a bunch of messages. I'm sorry about that. They're automated, so just ignore them. So, I mean, at least that was nice. Most people just, if you're not interested, they might not reply and you might still get their messages. So really being able to use both is going to be a big challenge, and it's a challenge for me, but it's going to really differentiate the good companies from the bad ones.
I've been through several experiences like that, where people have contacted me thinking that I was responsible for the marketing of National University. And I'm like, no, I don't do their marketing, and they insist that I do. And then when they don't hear from me, they're wondering why National University hasn't responded to them,
Yeah.
I don't do their marketing. Hello, so if you're so smart, you should know this, right?
So, and then the guy also is like, oh, what company do you work for? I'm like, wait, you called me and you really just called me. You have no idea what my company name is? I'm like, because then I'm having to spell my email address, just being nice here so he can send me some information. I'm like, where did you even get my information? And like, people are just too lazy. This is human nature for sure, but I can tell, especially these days, people trying to automate everything and people not doing their homework. You can tell. I mean, I tell my own team, I'm like, guys, we really don't need to try even that hard. Most people are not doing a good job. I get bombarded by emails that are so not relevant, so not well written. All we got to do is just a little better.
There you go. All right. So with that said, how do you get, if you're just a marketer out there, maybe you're a CMO, maybe you're a small company, how do you get your company to recognize that need to automate? So where's the first place you start? Do you talk to the IT department? Do you go to the next above you, the CEO? What step do you begin with?
That's a great question. But before I answer that, I actually, when I present this topic, I usually talk for about 3 hours on this topic extensively. And usually one of the first things I do in the first 10 minutes is I created a little quiz. It's an 8-question quiz. And I have people pull up their cell phones or the computers and they take this 8-question quiz. It takes less than 5 minutes. And then I rank them levels 1 through 5. And to be funny, I rank them from being like a dinosaur to a caveman to a little boy to like a soldier or a Jedi. So I think the most important thing first is kind of understanding where you're at, which is why I wanted to say that first. Because you might say, all this stuff looks awesome, but if you're not sure where you're standing, you're not really gonna, are gonna take the best approach to using marketing automation or anything related to automation. You're gonna want to just jump into using the tools without really figuring out what you really need to do. So the first step is kind of understanding what can marketing automation do, understand where you're there compared to what it can be done. And then, of course, as a big company, the first step is identifying, let's say, those weaknesses or those areas where you're not, working, let's say, so efficiently, and letting, let's say, your CMO know that there are all these gaps of either wasted time or wasted resources that could be basically done in a better way. And that's kind of, in the end, the most important thing about everything that's related to marketing automation or technology in general. It's really about figuring out how can we do more with less resources, whether that resource is time or money or both. So one of the things that I created a whole new website called Bluminate, which only talks about this part of my business, which is CRM, implementation, setup, training, and marketing automation. So kind of the selling point is, work more efficiently, work smarter. And that's kind of the first step. But I'll tell you, you gotta be sort of big enough in terms of you gotta be in touch with enough people to make automation worth it. Because if you're not in touch with that many people and you talk to, 5 people a week, you should probably just talk to them and email them one at a time. You just don't have that much volume. So doing all this marketing automation stuff and templates might not be worth your time. So you gotta be big enough, but it doesn't mean that you're gonna be a huge company. We're a very small company. My father has another company. He's a company of 1 with an assistant. So let's say 2 people. And I've implemented a lot of things with him, and he's definitely saving a lot of time, which turns into saving a lot of money. But there's got to be still enough stuff going around to be able to make it worth it.
Okay, so it has to be worth it. It has to be in some return on investment.
Yeah.
So is that the first thing to bring up? with your company, or are there other things that you think you should bring up to top management first? Or is there some kind of a score sheet where a company could say, this is the level I need to be at before I can automate?
So yes and no. I mean, I think that there's different levels of how you can automate things. And so depending on where you're at, there'll always be the next level. So it's not like a black or white thing. So let me give you an example. And it's not necessarily even about automation. So I use, let's say, automation hacks. They're not necessarily automated processes. So, because I've been talking extensively now with other people of how to approach this part of the business. And there's a lot of people doing marketing funnels, which are basically automated email campaigns. I'm trying to do and get involved into everything related to automating your digital business, related to sales, technical support, proposals, which is part of sales, not just marketing funnels. So one of the things that a good CRM system that has automation can do, if it's good, is create what are called like simple templates. Not email marketing templates, but I would actually, Agile CRM calls them simple templates. And that's a type of an email that you would normally send to one person if you were typing it normally, which means it doesn't have any images, it doesn't have any fancy stuff. It's usually pretty short and with your email signature. And it's really coming from you. It doesn't have an unsubscribe button. So if you actually put all of these common emails that you're constantly using into the CRM, and you can easily select those templates to reply to people, you're saving time. So maybe you're not automating anything, but you're already being more efficient by not having to type everything. So that's one way to be the first step in automating, because then later you can use those same email templates and actually create an email campaign to automate stuff. So there's different levels. I think taking some type of quiz like the one I have to give you a general idea of how automated or not you are in the general spectrum is a good step to understand kind of where you're at. And I'll be happy to share that link with people later.
That's great. So that I thought that was a really good answer. Step one might not even be automation. It might just be some cut and paste things.
Yeah.
I've been looking at TechCrunch a lot. I've been hearing about lots of different opportunities. There's a company I heard called Bubbles, and BUBBLZ. So it's about collecting information to hire people. I thought that was kind of interesting. They recommended also Trello or like Kanban based tools that require multiple steps. Do you have any comments on those?
So we use a system. So we started using, we started using Trello. For all of you who do not know what Trello is, you should definitely Google it, Trello.com. And the type of style of how it's organized visually, it's called Kanban. It's basically columns, and each column has a bunch of cards, and you can easily move cards around. It's kind of like a digital pinboard, and it's super useful. We really liked it, but then we moved away into, when it comes to project management, we used another tool. Doesn't matter what it's called now, but now we're using Teamwork. I don't think we want to talk about project management, although Bubbles seems to be an intuitive management platform. That's what they're saying, for enhanced business processes. So I haven't checked their tool out, but there are other tools that definitely we use for automating a lot of things. And this is kind of an interesting concept because they're trying to combine both a project management system, because I went through the site before, with business processes, which in the end, a project management includes a lot of processes. So I'm guessing maybe one of the processes is maybe for hiring people. I'm not sure. There's plenty of companies actually offering software just to keep track of your processes. There's another one called Suite Process. Have you heard of that one?
No, I haven't. Yeah.
So I haven't actually used it, but it's called suiteprocess.com. It's priced fairly, good. Let me see. I think it's like, $39 for up to 8 users and creating unlimited procedures. So the idea here is actually writing down all of your business procedures and then be able to share those procedures with your team so that you can grow your team. And, there's a book, I don't remember right now what it's called, but when you're talking about how you create the most efficient business, it's about creating a business that you can replicate. If you cannot replicate your business, you cannot grow it. And basically franchises do the best type of that, duplicating your processes by writing everything that you do. So we do that a lot. We write down, not everything because we are doing too many things, but the more that we can, we write the processes. And then when we're hiring more people, we make them go through that. But this type of software, lets you actually train people step by step, like step one, do this with a screenshot or a video. So it's super useful for, training people. And I'm guessing that might not have any automation built in this case, but Bubbles might. So I think Bubbles might be a combination of both a project management system and a suite process type of software.
Yeah, and it's from France too. So I mean, we're talking about companies that are based you can be based anywhere in the world, right?
Yeah, which is great.
So I looked at a list of what automation does, and we'll talk about platforms in a bit. And by the way, if you have a question, you want to type it in, ask it, that's okay too. But what does automation do? And I went to this list. It included a lot of things. They weren't even project management lists. So from
Ooh, I think it froze. Hello, I'm back. Mary Beth?
okay,
Hello?
that must have lost each other for a second there, but we'll get back into it here.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, I don't know how to put the video again.
We're good.
You
We're
can see
good.
me?
Yeah, we're good.
I cannot see
Everything's
myself.
good. I don't know what it was, but we're back to where we were.
Okay, perfect.
So I was talking about some of the activities of automation, like building and personalizing emails, CRM, automated responses, lead nurturing, leads. Automation, okay? Out of all of these things, which of these do you see as kind of the most important to focus on today? Is it more about the project management you're talking about and combining that with automation, or is it on email lists, or where do companies seem to need the most help?
That that's a great question. So I mean, it depends on what the company is, to be honest. But I think every company has in general some type of sales and some type of marketing, because every company needs to market themselves. And the truth is, the first thing that's important to mention is that sales and marketing today have really kind of become almost one. They're not one. One is marketing, which is about attracting people. Sales is about convincing them in the end, to become customers. But I definitely think that when we're talking about automation, in this case, if we're talking about digital automation, it's definitely about automating processes. So I mostly are doing sales and marketing automation, but not only that. And actually, I created a diagram, and maybe I can actually share my screen here in a moment, and I'll show it to you. that basically shows you how you can connect all types of different software that are sales, marketing, and many other software as a service or web-based systems. And that allows you to actually get data from different types of systems into, in this case, the CRM. So the CRM, which is a customer relationship management system, acts like your main database for your contacts. It's your, CRM is really a sales tool. So it was all about creating a place for you to keep track of your potential clients and then, being able to close deals. Now it's both a CRM and a marketing tool because it's got the built-in marketing things that you can automate emails and you can automate deals and you can automate a lot of things based on tags and based on a lot of different processes. But I'm not going to get into the technical stuff. But let me, I guess, give you some examples of other things.
You want to share your screen with us, right? Go ahead right now.
Let me just pull it up because I think it'll be very, very useful. So give me 1 second. I'm going to just pull it up. Lead magnets. Okay. So let me put it in my screen. Yeah. So tell me how we can switch the screen. And yes.
Yeah, just in that bottom, in the green box in the middle.
Share screen. There you go.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. I guess let me know if you can see the screen.
I can see it fine. Yeah.
Perfect. So let me see if I do this full screen. Okay. Well, I switched from a Mac into a PC, so I don't know how to make it full screen, but this might do it. There we go. Okay. So this is what I call the best software stack for truly small businesses. And the first thing I got to say is that, if you're a huge company and you're working with Oracle or SAP or one of those big systems which are called ERP systems, you probably are spending at the least, 20 to 50 grand a year. And then that type of system usually has all this stuff built in, including creating, hopefully, marketing or sales automation stuff. Now, what this diagram shows is the ability of getting multiple independent software that each of them has a specialty. Let's say, in this case, starting from the left, online forms. There's lots of software for capturing people's information, right? In this case, these are a bunch of logos from JotForm, WooFooForm, Typeform. There's a lot of different forms. There's systems for capturing contacts or users, including things like e-commerce, right? Where you're capturing, in this case, new customers. So I will go through them in a minute. I'll keep it brief, but the point is you can get information from all these different systems and merge them into one system so that you can see everything from one place, so that you can have like a whole picture of what's going on with your projects and with your data related to either your internal team or your external contacts, which could be your customers or partners or anybody else that's not internally part of your company. And so one of the things, for example, that you can automate, and let me go through an example, is the fact that you want to be able to see your accounting information in your CRM. So one of the great things that, for example, Agile lets you do is you can see all of your QuickBooks Online invoices from your CRM without you having to actually go into your QuickBooks account, look up the customer name, and see their invoices. You can see a summary and a total with dollar signs of how much one of your customers spent from your CRM. And that's great, right? And in this case, you're not even automating necessarily anything, but you're pulling information from one system into the other. In a way, you're indirectly automating the information to show up in the other place. So that's another example that's not really marketing or sales, but it's helping you save time by showing the right information where you need it. So I'll just quickly go through the categories. There are not that many, but the idea here is you're going to have one type of CRM system. It doesn't have to be Agile, which is the one we're showing up here. It can be Infusionsoft, it can be HubSpot, it can be Zoho. It doesn't really matter. The point is it'll be your central system for keeping the database of most of the stuff you need related to contacts and sales or marketing. And then you can input or output information from your main CRM into or out of it. So things such as your Google contacts or your Google emails, for example, that's the main integration we use. We use Gmail or Google Apps for Work or G Suite. So we want to be able to see all of our contacts emails from the CRM. I don't have to necessarily go to Gmail and look for them, right? This system, in this case, automatically connects to Gmail and it pulls or it gathers all of the emails from my Gmail and they show up on Agile. They're not copies of it, but you can see them from Agile. So that's another way. And then things like classic email marketing, such as MailChimp, you can export your contacts automatically from Agile to be into an email marketing list in MailChimp if you didn't want to use the marketing within Agile. You can also use separate advanced email, including Infusionsoft or ActiveCampaign or Drip. You could also automate things related to proposals. So I'll give you another example. We use Proposify, which is basically web-based proposals. As a salesperson, I don't want to need to remember when somebody signed the deal or when they viewed the proposal, because you can track, going back to tracking, you can track everything in Proposify. When people saw the proposal, how many seconds or minutes they spent on each slide. And then that information I can create, it's called a Zap through Zapier, to create a note that says, hey, this person opened this proposal on this date at this exact time. And that's something that, again, is saving me time, right? So that's just another example that it's not just sales and marketing. It's about, in this case, proposals, which is related to sales. We're not really automating much except automating some notes, but it's also part of the automation. So I'll keep it brief and I guess stop there. But the rest of the categories include customer support, social media, live chat, billing and accounting, landing pages, or lead capturing tools.
So I've been doing work on MarTech stacks. I've been looking at them.
Okay.
There's 5,000 different companies right now
that are
represented in the MarTech stacks. I am very interested in what's really good for mobile. So can you point out to some tools that are just really good in those stacks that are really good for mobile marketers? Okay,
so most of these, if we're starting with the CRM as the basis of doing marketing or sales, so most CRMs today that are web-based, and I mean, I guess now most of them are web-based, but there are others that are still not. But the web-based ones usually have an app. And most of those apps are, made specifically for the mobile phones. So they're usually native apps or they're hybrid mobile apps. And that means, they were designed to work best on the phone. So that means you can actually keep track of everything that you're doing from the app. And that's, of course, super useful. For example, MailChimp also has an app that's mobile, and it's mobile first design, which means it's very easy to use on your phone. Now, one of the things that is, sort of mobile friendly automatically are also capture forms, online forms for when you're capturing leads, which is usually one of the first steps in the process of capturing leads to later be able to actually do email marketing where you're capturing people's emails. So most forms software are also all automatically responsive. So if you put this form on a website and you're sending traffic to a website, it's going to be super easy to fill out that form on your phone. And that's, of course, key. Because if you're using a form that's not mobile friendly, you're going to make it impossible for people to fill out their name and email on their phone. So, I mean, for me now, that's kind of a given. Like anything that's not mobile friendly, I really don't even want to use, because if you actually look at most website statistics or gather data from all around the world, more than 50%, and in most cases 70% of traffic to a website comes from the phone.
Yeah.
So if you're not mobile friendly, you're basically excluding a lot of people.
Right. Okay. So we have to also cover the topic of privacy. Okay. So we're talking about data. The next thing we have to be talking about is privacy. So how does automation address these current issues of privacy, which are front and center today?
They are. So I actually just had a conversation, actually Saturday. I went to work on Saturday with a guy named Rene Bañuelos. You might know him. He's also local here in San Diego. He's got a company called 22 Social, and it's basically a company that's a software that works within Facebook. And because he's part of the Facebook environment, and now Facebook needs to comply with this privacy concerns in Europe. So the truth is, I knew nothing about the specifics of the law in Europe that are going to be taking place May 25th. But because I'm using all these systems and software, I've been getting all these new updated privacy policies from all the companies I use, okay? Including Hotjar, which does a lot of tracking of users when they're on the website. And I think it's an important topic that's going to really be affecting marketers directly. And I was kind of shocked of how big this huge thing is. And I guess I'm going to try to simple it down. So almost every website uses what are called cookies. It's a way to track you. And if you're not able to track a user, you cannot do a lot of the fancy stuff we do online these days. The most common when it comes to advertising, for example, is retargeting. When you go visit something on Amazon and then you go to some other website and you see that product showing up everywhere, that's remarketing, because Amazon basically tagged you and tagged you seeing that product because it's using cookies. So the law now, it's basically saying, to my understanding, that starting May 25th, at least in Europe, not yet in the US, every website is going to have to very explicitly have to ask people for their permission to be tracked, which means on whatever pop-up form that shows up, you're going to have to say, yes, I'm okay with you tracking me. And if you don't, you might not be technically allowed to continue to see the website, which is crazy, because you don't want people to be like opting out to not be tracked, because if you cannot track them, then you can do a lot of marketing stuff, which is what makes marketing today digitally successful. And I think that's a huge problem. Right now, even this morning, I actually sent a screenshot to Renee of this website that's like a travel blog. It's not even like a marketing related thing, but it's like, you just need to know that we are using cookies to track you. In this case, you can still see the website. You don't need to check the check mark like I'm okay to be able to see the website. But in one way, shape, or form, it looks like people are going to have to explicitly say, yes, I'm okay with sharing my information and you tracking me. But I think this is also something that psychologically people might start to say no, just because if you have the option, well, I might just say no because I don't want to be tracked. I don't want you to be selling me a bunch of stuff, because I think psychologically we don't want to be tracked. But today, and for the last 20 years that the internet's existed, we've been tracked and nobody really cares, or at least most people don't even know, right? But it's something that in order to continue from May 25th onwards, or whenever the US decides to make that a law in the US too, it's going to be very, very interesting how people are going to deal with it.
So you read our book, Mobile Marketing Essentials.
Yes.
I want you to know that there were 8 chapters in that textbook, and that we are in a big update right now as we speak. So it's due in about 2 weeks for the next update. There's been 4 updates already.
Wow.
This book is being used all around the world, including at Yale University. And many other international players are adapting this and adopting it. So we've written another chapter, and it's on privacy in mobile. So I'll be definitely, if you want,
yes, of course,
send me a note and I'll send you that, because it's in its works right now.
Okay.
So the same authors are working with it still. You can see it in the background there. There's it's $200 on Amazon, and it's actually, there's somebody selling it for $2,500. It's kind of funny.
That's funny.
Yeah, but automation is touching every one of us, especially those who are in the business. So I think this privacy, this GDPR, which is rolling out in May that you're referring to, is not only going to affect those in Europe, Jaime, it's
true.
going to affect the whole world, because everybody does business with somebody in Europe. And
exactly.
so
That's true. I guess I wasn't explicit about that, but yes, even if you're not in Europe, everything related to the world in the internet is connected. So that's why it will be affecting everyone. Yeah.
And the penalties for noncompliance are 4% of your overall revenues. Wow. So whatever your size of your company is, there's definitely a financial incentive to get on that. So so I want to just run by a couple of these companies. If you use those tools, I'd like to have you give it a grade. Okay.
Okay.
So like if 10 was the best and 1 was the worst, what would you give Constant Contact?
So I've actually worked with Constant Contact, so I will only really grade the ones I've used, because I don't think it's fair to grade the ones I haven't used.
Okay.
I'll just give my opinion. But so I did use Constant Contact for a couple of years, but it's been at least 5 years that I have not used it. So I do not know what the latest features are.
Okay.
But I'd say that Constant Contact, from what I've seen in their marketing, could definitely be like probably a 7 or 8.
Okay. What about Zoho Campaigns?
Zoho is a very interesting company. I've used Zoho a long time ago, and I was just speaking about it with also my friend Renee. So Zoho is actually now departmentalized their systems. Basically, they have lots of different systems within Zoho, and now they let you buy your own stack, which means, pick what you want and we'll put it together, and that's your stack, whether that's for sales or financing. And I haven't, again, played with it lately, but I've definitely gone back to their website to learn more about it. And I've used other clients' Zoho systems, and it looks great. And some of my other friends who are using it talk wonders about it. So I would definitely say it's probably between a 9 and a 10.
Okay, what about Send in Blue? Thank you for that.
Yeah. Send in Blue?
Do you know that one?
No.
Okay, how about Active Campaign? You mentioned that earlier.
Active Campaign, yeah. So Active Campaign as an email marketing and automation tool, I would definitely give it a solid 9.
Okay, what about Get Response?
Get Response. That was probably the first email marketing tool I used. Get Response, I'd give it probably a 7.
Okay, and what about Campaigner?
Campaigner I've not used. I
Okay.
tested it, but we never kept it.
Pardot?
Pardot is more like a high level in terms of they're trying to targeting their enterprise companies, so I've not worked with it either. But it definitely, I studied a lot of them prior to choosing any systems, and it definitely looks like it's going to be a good system, but I cannot give it a grade because I've not used it.
Okay, last question. What about HubSpot?
HubSpot is great. I've actually also not used HubSpot myself, but I'm very familiar with it because what I'm using is actually kind of the competing one. Agile CRM indirectly is competing with them in terms of features. HubSpot is a company that has a great software, but they're more than just a software company. They're a company that's helping businesses with a lot of support and content and strategy. And I would definitely give them a 10, even if I've never used their system, simply because they really pushed everyone to get on board and learn about marketing automation. All of the content that you find online, when I started my company, everything came from HubSpot. So these guys know what they're doing.
Okay, well, thanks. Now, you gave me a few questions that I could ask you in the few minutes we have.
Sure.
So I'll go to that list now. What's your favorite automation software? Was that what you just mentioned? Agile?
I'm going to tell you why for me it's the best. So I'm working with small and medium businesses. So if you're on a tight or small budget and you cannot spend the 400 minimum usually dollars per month that Infusionsoft cost, or HubSpot, you can use a free CRM, but if you really want to get to use their good tools, it's between $400 to $800 a month. And we're talking, not big budgets for huge companies, but it's a significant amount of money for a lot of companies. So the one I'm using, which is called Agile CRM, starts when it's not free at $10 per user per month if you're prepaying for a year. So we're paying $40 a month. We're 4 users right now in the CRM. And why is it amazing? Because it's very affordable, yet it still has most of the features that this other fancy, more expensive systems have. So for that reason, and the fact that it's user-friendly and their support is good, it's just the best of lots of different worlds. Price,
Okay.
features, it's great.
I think I'll check that out because I haven't as yet. And I have used several of the other ones.
And you can actually create an account for free too.
Yeah. So talking about implementation is always key, right?
Yes.
So what tips do you have about implementing your automation?
So the first tip before you do any type of implementation is actually try to not touch the computer and sit down and either on paper or on a laptop without internet, type and create a plan of what you actually want to do. Because that's very hard for a lot of people when we sign up for a software and we start touching everything and you want to start creating stuff. But the first step of implementing anything is getting yourself organized and figuring out what your end goal is. And this happens with my clients all the time. And I warn them, I'm like, listen, you need to have a plan and you need to organize your contacts and you need to create templates. You need to do a lot of stuff before you can go and actually efficiently use a CRM or any of these tools. And the truth is most people don't have time. That's actually my biggest challenge when working with people. They're all super excited. They all want to use it, but they don't have time to sit down and stop everything they're doing and actually, come up with a strategy and a plan of what they need to do. And maybe, for example, the first step, which is the most common, is organizing your contacts. People have contacts in their email, on their phone, but a CRM is all about data, and you need to have your contacts well organized in order to start using something like that. So that's kind of the first step.
Okay, so we always talk about opting in. Who wants to be on somebody's email list? I mean, really, want to just talk a little bit about opting into someone's email list?
Sure. So I'm kind of extreme when it comes to that. Like everybody, I sign up for a lot of stuff, And then eventually, if it's not useful, I don't think about it twice and I unsubscribe. In today's world, most people can unsubscribe. Most people don't. And that's the type of people like my wife that they just get tons of email, but she doesn't mind having the email cluttered. But I think I can tell you that the most important thing is value. And if you're getting really good stuff from the emails that you're receiving when you opt in, you're going to stay on that list forever. And I can tell you, for example, one of the very few lists that I stay on is the email newsletter from Zapier. And actually, talking about newsletters, it's not really a newsletter anymore. It's actually once a week, the girl in charge of Zapier's content, she sends out one email that's like one paragraph short that says, listen, this is our latest blog post. And that's a new trend too. You're not going to even share a bunch of stuff. You're going to share one post, your latest one, and that's how you're going to keep people engaged. And they just have amazing content. I mean, their blog posts are not standard average size. They're like 2,000-3,000 words each. They're like full-on tutorials for how to do a lot of stuff. So they're great. And that's the reason I keep them. So if you're opting into something good, that's great to opt into something good. If you want to test something out, test it. And if you don't like it, just really unsubscribe. It doesn't take that long.
Okay. So to kind of get into the value, which you talked about now, and the people's time is so valuable. Maybe, getting their email lists together, getting their contacts together, it is a real big challenge.
Oh, yeah.
How much money can somebody save by using automation? Let's be realistic here.
It's a good question. I cannot give it an actual dollar number because for every company, their revenue is different and what their time is worth is different. So it's really going to depend on who the user is, how the organization makes money. But in general, it's a fact that you're going to save, I'd say at least between 20 to 50% of time if you have the correct processes in place. If you're doing a lot of marketing and sales related tasks, at least on those tasks, right? You definitely save a lot of time. There's other tasks that you cannot save more time. When you need to have a conversation one-on-one over the phone, you just got to have that conversation. You're not automating anything, and that's just part of your life. And that stuff you cannot necessarily optimize, right? Unless you keep conversations short or with some type of format. But I started just this company by myself and one other person. Now I manage a whole team, and I've been able to actually grow my company because I have so many things in place that make my company work, because I have put all these systems in place that let me do a lot of stuff without me being there doing them all the time. So I'd say 20 to 50% of time would be
okay. And that time in terms of value of revenue, how do we measure that? I mean, just give us some helpful tips. Maybe you have an example.
I'm not sure I have an immediate example, but I'm trying to work right now with a client and a friend that, he's a realtor. So he sells houses and he wants to sell more houses. If I can help him in his time, the same amount of time he's got every day in his life, sell more houses, depending on the amount of houses that he's going to sell, incrementally, the value of his time is going to be worth so much more, right? Because, the big commissions on the houses are great. So again, it depends on what you're doing. If your hour is approximately, if you divide up how much money you make per month, if your hour is worth $100 or $500, you basically got to multiply that by the amount of hours you're saving to figure out, exactly how much money you're saving.
Okay. So in the minute that we have to wrap up, I want you to give us how do we get in touch with you, Jaime? What's the best way to reach out to you? And what should we expect when someone does reach out to you?
Sure. Well, first thing I want to say is that, I am here first and foremost to help. I love helping people, and I do a lot of, chatting with people just to help them understand where they're at and how I can help them. That's my biggest thing. So if you're going to contact me, you can expect to be helped. For sure, and at no cost, initially, because I really love helping people understand how to use technology to help their businesses grow. You can definitely contact me if you want to send me an email. I'll keep the simple one, info@bluminati.com. I don't know if I can type it in here, but I'll type it into these messages as well. Otherwise, you can give me a call to the office. The phone number is 619-354-1118. I'll also type it. But actually, one of the easiest ways to contact me, if you visit our website, you can chat with me on like 10 different things: Facebook Messenger, Telegram, WhatsApp, by email. There's actually also an actual chat on our website. So in any way that you want, you can get in touch with us, and I'll personally reach out to you. So
okay, so you got the number right. So it's 1118, not 1198. Okay, great.
Yeah, not 98, exactly. Yeah, 619-354-1118.
Okay, well, with that, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. It's been a great experience for me, and hopefully the same for you.
Yes, thank you, Mary Beth. I really appreciate it, and thank you so much for your time.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.